Hello, my dearest friends. Welcome to this setup. Today I want to talk about the amazing new Netflix show, The Queen's Gambit, which was released in October 2020. So, this October. It's a Netflix miniseries created by Scott Frank and Alan Scott, and it's based on a novel by Walter Tevis in 1983. So it's based on a novel, it's fiction, it's not a real story. The story is about a young woman called Beth Howard who is an orphan and discovers that she's incredibly good at chess. She's a chess prodigy, and her story in pursuing the goal of becoming like the world's best chess player. And it's set in the 1950s. It starts in the 1950s when Beth is a child. She's just become an orphan, and into the late 60s where she's a successful chess player. I won't say more because no spoilers. I absolutely adored this show. I binged it in 2 sittings. I was happy. I was living my best life. I was in this world. It was escapism at its finest. I couldn't stop watching. I just loved the whole thing. The atmosphere, the show, it's just incredible. And now I'm going to tell you why I enjoyed it so much and why you should definitely watch it too. So the story itself is just fascinating because it's all about Beth in this chess world and how she navigates it, how she climbs up the ladder of chess players, and how she navigates this world next to her kind of emotional struggles, her personal struggles, where she has an addiction to tranquilizers, and she feels like she can only play her best games when she's taking these pills, because she has this thing where she takes these pills before she goes to sleep, and then she like looks up at the sky, at her ceiling, and then plays chess in her head. Like she goes through all the different steps, and that's just a very intriguing story. What I loved about The Queen's Gambit most of all were just the characters. All the people in it were so complex and so interesting, and all the side characters were just incredible. Beth Harmon is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and she's just incredible. She's so unique, and the way she plays Beth is just Beth is the kind of person, she's not really likable, especially as a kid. She's very kind of cynical and mistrusting and doesn't show emotion. She always has this kind of, she just looks at people with like a stern look. But as this show goes on, you see her grow, you get to know her trauma, what happened to her, why she acts the way she does, and you also see that she has such a soft and loving side. It's just kind of beautiful to see her take refuge in chess and learning it and becoming this adult and having experiences and just being an amazing complex character. You definitely root for her, and she has this kind of way of acting, and she has these moves she repeats all the time. For example, when she plays chess, she always goes and you're like, she's doing it, she's doing the move, man. She has this kind of detached air to her, but you root for her as a viewer. You want her to succeed, you want to know what she's thinking, you want to know her story. I found her really fascinating. Another main character is Alma Wheatley, who's the woman who adopts Beth when she's a teenager, and I loved her. I thought she was so kind of unique, and I've never seen a character like her before. When you get to know her, you don't really know how to feel about her. You don't know if you can trust her or not, because she's not like the super friendly kind of mothering, like, you know, the teacher from Matilda type woman. When Beth kind of voices her interest in chess, she kind of rolls her eyes and goes, oh, can't you have like a normal interest? An interest that other girls like as well. And you're like, okay, Alma, okay. Then you start to notice that she's kind of a very sad character. You get to learn that she's an alcoholic. She's this kind of, her dreams have been crushed because she loved playing piano, but she had stage fright, and you just feel like Alma's life didn't turn out the way she wanted it to, and it was so tragic to watch. And then I knew this would happen. please stay. I don't know if that's crooked or not. When she finds out how good Beth is at chess, that it holds a lot of benefits for her, she kind of starts supporting Beth. She's just a real character. After a while you realise she really does care for Beth. She really loves her and she roots for her and she wants her to succeed. But she also has the side of being ill and having life not pan out as she hoped it would. So she's just so interesting, and I really loved her. I thought she was played amazingly, and yeah, I think she's a big reason why you should watch it. Another character I love was Jolene. She's Beth's first friend at the orphanage, and I thought her story really made me sad as well. She's been in the orphanage a lot longer than Beth, and then Beth gets adopted, but she doesn't, and it's just really tragic. It broke my heart. And okay, this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched. She doesn't come up for the rest of the season, but she does turn up in the last episode when Beth is kind of at her low point. I found that kind of sad because I would have loved to see more of her story. I thought she was such a fascinating character. And then when you got to know her in the last episode, she was just so tough and smart and cool and wise. And just when you got to know her story and how she was working in a really masculine field, and a field where she had to compete as a woman, especially as a black woman, she had all these hurdles. It made me kind of sad to have her story only be a storyline to help Beth's storyline. Does that make sense? So it's kind of sad to see her just come in for a bit to say, Beth, you can do it. Oh, here's some money. I can help you kind of support Beth. And then she just disappeared again. I don't know. I thought it was I felt like she was used, man. She should have had more of a storyline. I thought she was really tragic. But in the end, actually, she wasn't tragic. She was a really cool woman at the end. So I'm happy it turned out well for her. But storytelling-wise, I would have liked to just know her side of things more. Beth gets to know chess and learn chess from the janitor at the orphanage, Mr. Scheibel, and I love that man. He was so proud of Beth when she succeeded, and we don't, spoiler again, we don't get to see him. He's in that first episode, maybe the second, but that's it. You don't get to see him afterwards. And then Beth comes back to his room and sees that he saved all the newspaper clippings of her, and that just broke my heart. I cried. And I would have liked to see him more. I felt so sad that he never got to see Beth again. And I guess it made Beth more complex again because she felt guilty that she hadn't come back to see him, and he was so proud of her and kept following her story, and it was just heartbreaking storyline. There were 3 men in Beth's life that I found really cool as well. They're kind of side characters. One of them was Harry Beltic, played by Harry Melling, aka Dudley Dursley. Dudley Dursley. Icon. He's kind of her first real opponent in a chess tournament, and it was just beautiful to see how he evolved, and he lived with her for a while and he really helped her. He was just such a kind man. There was also Towns, who was kind of her first friend at the chess tournaments, who she fell in love with. There was unrequited love because he turned out to be gay. I thought he was just such a nice man, such a nice storyline, and I loved his addition to the world of A Queen's Gambit. Another side character, Benny Watts, who was also really cool. He was like her main competitor in chess. He was the American champion, and their friendship was just really nice to see as well. And it was just, the side characters were so nice in The Queen's Gambit, just so cool and interesting, and they just supported Beth, and I loved it. I loved it, man. Another thing I loved about The Queen's Gambit was just the fact that it was a period piece. The fact that it was set in the 50s and 60s just made the whole thing so much more rich and special and interesting. First of all, the sets. Oh my god, the setting of the whole thing was incredible, especially when Beth starts to travel. So she first travels around the US, then she goes to Paris, and then she goes to the Soviet Union. It's just fascinating to see the grandeur of the whole world. And for example, all the hotels she visits are just stunning, and there's so many shots of her walking places, and you just follow her walking. And then that was also underlined by music from the time. So especially in the 60s, you had Beth dance to different 60s songs in her house or in hotel rooms, and it was just so much fun to watch. And it just, the score was so good and it underlined the set and the whole atmosphere. What I also loved so much were her outfits. I thought Beth's outfits especially were such a crucial part to the show. I felt like they were also a character in the show. Especially at the beginning, you see she has these kind of frumpy dresses she has to wear from the orphanage, and she gets bullied for it at school. And while her personality evolves and her chess playing gets better and she travels more, her style becomes much more cosmopolitan and open and cool. And for example, in the 50s, she's still wearing these blouses and these, what they call those big skirts, those big American 50s style skirts. And then in the 60s, she starts wearing capri pants and turtlenecks. And she's like this, I don't know, it's just really fascinating to watch the style evolve. And there was so much thought put into everything. And for example, when she goes back home and she meets her school bully, and the bully is still dressed in these 1950s housewife clothes, while she's already evolved into these 1960s fashion, more worldly. And you could just see the difference between the girl who'd stayed in her hometown and hadn't wanted to see the world, or had the opportunity to, I guess, and Beth who's been able to travel and see how other people live. The last thing I was just fascinated by was just the world of chess. I don't play chess. I think I used to do a bit when I was a kid, but a bit means 3 or 4 times. And it was just so interesting to see the world of these tournaments and the way it was this worldwide thing, and that people in Eastern Europe were the best at it. And it was just such an interesting kind of historic look into that world, that era, and those kind of tournaments. I did read that there were some critics saying that the fact that the men were also nice to Beth was very unrealistic. And I did feel like every time she lost, they were just well done. Oh yes, handshake. And I feel like the men in real life wouldn't have been as happy as the men in the show were. There was kind of demure and we're oh, there you go. Well done. And it just feels, it didn't feel very realistic. And I did also read an article. There's this Hungarian chess player, Judith Polgar, who was the only woman ever who was ranked number 1 in the World Chess Championship. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but I read this in an article, and she said that men were not very nice to her when she won, or they couldn't handle the fact that she beat them. So the show is kind of this fantastical, fictionalized version of how it could be. I really actually enjoyed that, because I thought it was escapism, it was fiction, so it doesn't have to be completely accurate. It's nice to imagine a world where a woman in the 50s and 60s could have the opportunity to rise to the top in a male-dominated tournament. I really enjoyed that fact. I just adored The Queen's Gambit. I really recommend it. I thought it had so many interesting themes, and I think what makes the show so great are the characters and the setting. It's just a fascinating look into a world that most of us probably never have access to or don't know about. So it's just a cozy, cool, empowering show. And one thing at the end, if you've seen the end, how cool is that her outfit looks like a chess piece. I mean, come on! If that ain't it, then I don't know what is. Don't know what that means, that sentence. Anyway, yeah, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've seen The Queen's Gambit, I'd love to hear your opinions. I always love to read the comments and see what people thought. If you enjoyed it, if you hated it, things you liked, things you didn't like, yeah, I'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching. I'd love for you to subscribe or like or comment. I make bookish and filmish content, and I love to see you here. You're always welcome. Everyone's welcome. Tell me your opinions. Tell me what you feel. Love yourself. Okay. Have a nice day. Tschaußen für Nausen.